Today on Jay Sekulow Live, the IRS Scandal of the Century. We'll talk about that and more and take your phone calls on Jay Sekulow Live.
Live from Washington, D.C., Jay Sekulow Live. Phone lines are open for your questions right now. Call 1-800-684-3110. That's 1-800-684-3110. And now, your host, Jordan Sekulow.
It started over a 7-year span of representing clients targeted by the IRS. The ACLJ represented more than 41 Tea Party and conservative groups from more than 22 states. Sound familiar to what we're doing with these parents right now? Sound familiar with how we've been fighting the deep state? This was the first shot fired back at the deep state. And it was fired by the American Center for Law and Justice.
Against the biggest agency to deal with, and that is the Internal Revenue Service.
That's right. The most feared. Well, it used to be the most feared until the Washington Post said because of what we did to it, the ACLJ, it was gutted, and it still is to this day. So from April 2010 to May of 2013, our clients received 117 targeting letters from IRS officials. These questionnaires demanded that our clients set aside their constitutional rights at the request of government bureaucracy. 18 of those letters, of course, were signed by Lois Lerner herself. 42 letters sent to 28 of our clients after May of 2012, when the IRS claims their discriminatory heightened scrutiny had ended. So they were still doing it. They asked about things like prayers. They asked for donor list. They asked for text of speeches. These were both 501c3, 501c4 groups, and some groups who, just because they had the name Liberty in their title, got caught up in this targeting scheme by the top officials at the IRS. We exposed how Lois Lerner really wanted to move from the bureaucracy into the Obama administration. And, Dad, we had the FBI try to get involved with our clients.
Yeah, well, it's because what happened was the FBI was notified because of Lois Lerner. Lois Lerner said, let's get the FBI and the FEC involved with this, and we can just bring one criminal case. And we have all these letters, and we got all this from FOIA and from our litigation. If we could get one criminal case against one of these Tea Party groups, we'll stop their influence. That was the position that was being advocated at that point by the Department of the Treasury, the Internal Revenue Service. Now, what's also interesting there is that we did a frontal attack on this. We went to federal court seeking injunctive relief, monetary damages, and so forth. Now, here's what's so interesting. The fact that the IRS finally, after years of litigation, conceded their error, corrected the policies, implemented new procedures, consented to an injunction, tells you how serious this really was. It was wrongdoing at the highest level of the Internal Revenue Service, and the ACLJ got to the bottom of it. Why am I talking about that today? Because it's whether it's the IRS or what's been going on with Flynn or the unmasking, we have been involved in. We've been the leaders in these issues for decades.
Yes, this came to a close not that long ago, but you might need a reminder. It was December of 2017 when we posted on ACLJ.org that 5 years ago, no one would have believed that this victory was possible, that we were taking on the Obama administration's IRS, the most feared bureaucratic agency, in federal court over the politically motivated targeting of conservative and Tea Party groups. And by the way, all those bad actors at the IRS are gone now, long gone now. And our lawsuit not only prompted the IRS to admit in federal court that it wrongfully targeted these groups during the Obama administration, but also issued an apology to our clients for doing so. And in addition, the IRS consented to a court order prohibiting it from ever engaging in this form of unconstitutional discrimination in the future, or else. The IRS admits that it targeted the conservatives and Tea Party groups based on their viewpoints. Now, we have put together over these years a documentary that covers all of this. It's available now at acljfilms.com for free, or if you have Amazon Prime, it's free there. It's called Targeting Us, the People's Fight Against the IRS. And this is a timely moment to watch this documentary.
I'll tell you something, folks. If you want to feel like you're in the battle, get this video, watch it, acljfilms.com or Amazon Prime, Targeting Us.
The IRS has finally released a list of political groups it has scrutinized.
I received this letter with a bunch of questions
that we all knew immediately was not right.
And at that point, I knew I was a target.
Tea Party groups say they're being targeted by the Internal Revenue Service, and they're enlisting the aid of the American Center for Law and Justice.
They were trying to shut groups down that they disagreed with.
I'll never forget what Jay said when he said, "We've got your back and we're going to be taking care of this." And I felt like the weight of the world was off of my shoulders.
Ms. Lerner, why would you say Tea Party cases were very dangerous?
The IRS started targeting Tea Party groups more than 3 years ago.
Never before has the federal government tried to muzzle everyday Americans solely because of their political view.
You don't expect this kind of intimidation.
There were some boneheaded decisions out of a
but no
office.
Mass corruption.
Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Lois Lerner admitted that agency employees singled out particular groups for extra scrutiny.
They used names like Tea Party or Patriots, and they selected cases simply because the application had those names in the title.
It was something that no one could believe our government was even capable of doing.
They have way too much power and no accountability.
Lois Lerner knew what was coming.
They got caught. The federal government got caught.
It is worth any battle to preserve our liberty.
We were fighting the United States of America at this point.
They knew they were breaking the law. They knew they were violating our rights.
We accidentally stumbled into the corruption that is the largest scandal in American history.
Thanks to your support, Targeting Us is now available on Amazon.
All right, welcome back to Jay Sekulow Live. This is Jordan Sekulow. We are taking your phone calls, too, because this really was the beginning of the battle against the deep state. It was under the Obama administration, so the battle was that much tougher because you didn't have allies at the Department of Justice. You didn't have allies. I mean, you were fighting the IRS, the FBI trying to go after our clients. Sound familiar again? They tried to go after Mike. They still are. Mike Flynn, you know, President
Different
Trump.
agency, same tactics.
Yeah, but they were working together.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I remember the day in Washington, D.C., Dad, when we were at our D.C. office, and the FBI wanted to interview some of our clients. And we said, no. We are no longer cooperating with the IRS. We're going to court.
Right. So
no more negotiating.
The FBI was saying, well, they were interviewing our clients because if there was any potential wrongdoing, they wanted to get to the bottom of it.
Just like Mike Flynn.
My trust level was zero at that point. Your trust level was zero.
Flynn.
That was before all of this.
It was like 10 years before.
And we met with them. We didn't let them meet with our clients. And we said, we're not doing that. We are not going to participate in this because we think it's a charade. They would never tell us exactly what the point was, exactly what they were looking at was, and we were not going to put our clients in that situation. So what did we do? We went to federal court. You know what we ultimately got? I'm going to play this soundbite first, and that is the IRS started doing this in 2010. So we're talking about 10 years ago. And for over 2 years, the media thought it was just a silly conspiracy theory. This is a bunch of right-wingers. They don't know what they're doing. But you know what it ended up resulting in? This.
They used names like Tea Party or Patriots, and they selected cases simply because the application had those names in the title. That was wrong. The IRS would like to apologize for that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I always said, and I'll say it again, that apology was not accepted. We went to federal court to get justice. That's number one. Number two, they is what Lois Lerner said. She's the head of tax exempt. You mean you. You came up with a be on the lookout list, a BOLO list. So why are we bringing it up today? Because we've seen a culmination over the last months of all these faux investigations, Mueller and Ukraine and the Russiagate, and ends up being nothing. What happens each and every time? This is, sometimes it's Congress, sometimes it's deep state actors. Here's one where it was not to a president. It was to you. That's why we've named the film Targeting Us, the people's fight against the IRS. And it's available at ACLJfilms.com or Amazon Prime. And by the way, if you go to ACLJfilms.com or on Amazon Prime and look it up, you're going to see a lot of movies, several movies by the ACLJ. And we want to encourage you. We do these documentaries to watch them. You're going to see bits and pieces of it and hear bits and pieces of it today. but it is definitely worth watching. You're going to learn a lot about what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is something, again, I want to, I mean, are we ready to start playing some clips for folks? Let's do it. I mean, just so you get a sense, if you're listening, you're going to get a sense of what you will be seeing, because this is visual too. But if you're watching on Facebook and Periscope as well, we wanted to just kind of give you some glimpse into why. Because, again, I go back, it was like when I was talking to Sean Hannity about his book and how sometimes you've got to take the time to retell stories, because there's so many facts over such a long period of time, and you don't want to forget, because you don't want history to repeat itself. And we don't want to have to continue battling the deep state forever. And so take a listen from the new documentary available at ACLJfilms.com or Amazon Prime. It's free. Targeting Us, the People's Fight Against the IRS. And guys, make sure I tweet out the link right after the show to to our website so that people can see the film, Targeting Us, the People's Fight Against the IRS. Here's a first video clip, the opening sequence of the film.
Ms. Lerner, why would you say Tea Party cases were very dangerous?
On the advice of my counsel, I respectfully exercised my Fifth Amendment right and declined to answer that question.
They knew they were breaking the law. They knew they were violating our rights.
There were some boneheaded decisions out of a
but
local
no
office.
mass corruption.
Not even mass corruption, not even a smidgen of corruption.
It was the tip of the iceberg. It was far worse than even we expected.
The IRS has finally released a list of political groups it has scrutinized.
It was something that no one could believe our government was even capable of doing.
They have way too much power and no accountability.
Never before has the federal government tried to muzzle everyday Americans solely because of their political view.
That is as wrong as it gets.
Lois Lerner knew what was coming, and it wasn't going to be pretty.
We were fighting the United States of America at this point.
We accidentally stumbled into the corruption that is going to be and is the largest scandal in American history.
My name is Kevin Kookajee.
I'm Toby Marie Walker.
Tom Zawistowski.
Eric Wilson.
Mark Kent.
Becky Garrettson.
Kara Waddell.
And this.
And this.
And this.
This is our story.
This is my story.
This is my story.
Again, that movie's called Targeting Us. It's an ACLJ film. If you want to know about the deep state in action in a real case that went to real court, they got a real result, then go to ACLJfilms.com or Amazon Prime, Targeting Us, the People's Fight Against the IRS. And by the way, when you support the work of the ACLJ, guess what? We get to produce these documentaries. We're doing a documentary on Brunson. We're working on some other really great creative content. I can't give you the details of it yet, but it's something very innovative that's going to impact your family in a very good way. So we're very excited about that. Content is important to the ACLJ. When you're supporting the ACLJ at ACLJ.org, especially when we're in a month like this month with a matching challenge campaign, you're supporting our work in courts around the country. Here is multifaceted. This movie is a perfect example. Targeting Us, the People's Fight Against the IRS, the movie, was done to educate people about what was going on. At the same time, your donation support was supporting the movie and the production of the movie. Guess what else was happening? We were in federal court winning the case, which we ultimately did. So that is your case. That's your support of the ACLJ in action.
We had our clients testifying before Congress. You were testifying before Congress.
Yep.
I mean, we were, again, it was a kind of a new step for the ACLJ, because what happened was back in 2012, we started getting all these contacts. These are small groups. Again, I kind of make the comparison to what we're happening today, where we're helping these churches out in California or parents with the education issues. They can't afford law firms. They can't afford attorneys to handle these situations. These were small grassroots groups just trying to get their legal status so they could fundraise, so they could rent buses, so they could get insurance, things like so they could hold events and do so legally. They voluntarily submitted themselves to IRS oversight. They weren't trying to break the law. And we started getting calls and calls and calls, and dozens of specific Tea Party groups and other conservative groups that were being harassed. And So that what happened was they weren't being denied. They just kept getting more questionnaires. And finally, these groups realized, wait, these questionnaires, this is not the normal IRS procedure. This is directed at us. We're being targeted, it looks like. So we better talk to some lawyers. So they got to the American Center for Law and Justice. And Dad, I mean, just to explain to our people, where they support the work of the ACLJ, this was just a loan to get to that decision that we read from the IRS, the consent order saying they can never do this again or else, and admitting the wrongdoing, changing their procedures, gutting the IRS, as the Washington Post called it, really changed the whole how people even view the IRS these days.
Right.
It took 5 years. So, I mean, it took considerable financial, those donations that come into the ACLJ. This is 5 years of work representing, I mean, I could go through the list. I mean, we have it here. There's a Colorado 912 Project, the American Patriots Against Government Excess, San Antonio Tea Party, Shenandoah Valley Tea Party Patriots, Wetumpka Tea Party, the OKC PIA Association, the Richmond Tea Party, Hawaii Tea Party, Rochester Tea Party. I mean, this list goes on for 2 more pages. For 5 years, we represented all these clients in federal court. So if you think your donations don't matter, folks, they absolutely do. It is the reason why we're able to take down government agencies like the IRS, which we did, and why we're able to fight so hard against the deep state and really put them under a microscope.
What we did, because of the work at the IRS, we decided to open up a unit inside the ACLJ called our Government Affairs Unit. I'm holding in my hand the first of the, this is the most recent report that committee gives on the Freedom of Information Act litigation and our Government Accountability Project. That's just the beginning. And I want to tell you something. Your support makes this happen. So again, a huge thank you to all of you for standing with us. So whether it is fighting in court on a FISA abuse or whether it is litigating for religious freedom here in the United States or around the globe, we're standing up for individuals that were targeted by the IRS. Your support of the ACLJ makes all the difference. We have that movie available for you for free, acljfilms.com or on Amazon Prime. It's called Targeting Us, The People's Fight Against the IRS. We encourage you to watch it, listen to it. You're going to hear some more excerpts from it today, and it's a good reason to support the ACLJ and our Matching Challenge campaign.
Yeah, just to remind you about this kind of work, these years-long battles, and the work that we're doing on behalf of all these parents right now. We're able to do it at no cost, and we're able to take down government agencies and hold them account for their wrongdoing. Go to aclj.org. Be part of our Matching Challenge. Donate today. Tax deductible. We'll be right back. We'll play more from Targeting Us.
A lot of people forgot what the T, the E, and the A stood for. It was taxed enough already. And that was what had really kind of generated this movement, grassroots movement, that was not partisan. So it wasn't just Republicans. It wasn't even just conservatives, but it was people across the country who said, I've just had it with the federal government.
At that time, we had heard of other groups around the country, just people around the country they were going to start what they called a Tea Party, like the Boston Tea Party, and rebel against some of these policies. So my husband said, Becky, I know they're going to have a Tea Party in Montgomery, but we have a lot of older folks up here in Wetumpka. Why don't we put something on at the park?
I've been advocating against, the overreach of government for a long time. So they kind of got it going over here, and then somebody had the bright idea, hey, get Mark Kent over here. He's all over this stuff. So they pulled me in, and then that's what got me started.
What got me into this, what brought me off the sidelines and into this, I can tell you very specifically. I'm a businessman. I rely on contracts. And when they were doing the car bailouts, President Obama treated the bondholders who had a specific position in a bankruptcy, which is what the bailout, the car companies was, and basically said, those legal contracts you have don't matter. I'm the president. We're just going to do this.
What I'm talking about is using our existing legal structure as a tool that, with the backing of the U.S. government, can make it easier for General Motors and Chrysler to quickly clear away old debts that are weighing them down, so that they can get back on their feet and onto a path to success.
And as a businessman, I'm like, whoa, you've got to have contract law. If they can tear up these contracts for these powerful bondholders, what can they do to my contracts? And literally, that's what brought me into the fight, because I said, if we don't have contract law, if we don't have the rule of law, well, then we don't have.
Folks, you're watching on Facebook and Periscope. Great numbers today. I think people are just reminding themselves about this IRS scandal and how bad it was, and that what the ACLJ was able to do to get justice for so many conservative groups. And, we represented the, 40 plus groups who were willing to fight out the IRS, but by winning, we really won for so many other groups who maybe were a little bit afraid of taking on the IRS, weren't sure if they wanted to get involved in a legal matter. We see this time and time again at the ACLJ where people are very gung-ho at first about filing lawsuits and things like that, and then suddenly when you got to file a lawsuit, hey, it's a big deal, even if it doesn't cost you anything. Right. So the victory, though, isn't just for the 41 clients. The victory is for every one of those nonprofits out there on both sides of the aisle. They can't be treated like this by the IRS ever again, or else they're in serious trouble at the IRS. And the IRS admitted to viewpoint discrimination, viewpoint targeting, but it all started with these letters. And I want to play for you. So share this with your friends and family on Facebook and Periscope. This is a great show to share on Facebook and Periscope because it's very visual. And it's still good for radio, too, because the audio is excellent. This is coming from our documentary. It's out on ACLJfilms.com or on Amazon Prime. It's absolutely free. It's called Targeting Us, The People's Fight Against the IRS. Take a listen, because this is how it all started.
We go all the way through 2011, and we want to file our taxes. We want to do the right thing. We want to, we're good citizens. We're trying to help them help us. Nothing until we get into January of 2012. And in January 2012, I received this letter with a bunch of questions. And as the first correspondence we had had with them at all. And it came out of the blue. We were just shocked. I mean, it just came in the mail. And then I started to read these questions, and that's when things really got interesting.
By that time, it was 2 years later, and we got a letter one evening from the IRS saying they wanted all this information. It was a 7-page letter that we all knew immediately was not right.
We finally get a letter from the IRS telling us that they will not approve our tax-exempt status unless we answer almost 90 more questions. Otherwise, if you don't answer these, you'll be taken out and you can't have a tax-exempt status.
30 questions, 70-some sub-bullets to it, a total of 88 different inquiries.
I do audit litigation for a living against the IRS. To me, that was like, whoa.
The letter that I got from the IRS not only was filled with egregious questions, but it gave me a very short timeline and a window to answer those questions.
I came in with the paperwork and I said, something's wrong here. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure what's going on yet, but something's wrong. This is not, they shouldn't even be going in this direction at all.
And in these questions were questions about family members of boards. There were questions about donors and activity beyond just the normal list of donors, but what their activities and affiliations were as well.
So again, that is just how it all started. Those letters, letters about family members, letters about donor list, letters about content of speeches. I mean, think about this. How many events do you attend, like church and political events, where do you have a transcript of the speech? I mean, no, especially at a very local grassroots level. You don't have a transcript. You even have video of it. Even these days with technology, it's very, these were very grassroots organizations, and they wanted actually, in some of the questionnaires, they wanted backdoor access to their websites so that they could go in and see the back door of the website to see what was going on, which would give them access to everything the organization had done, including decisions they had made, like, hey, we shouldn't be doing this. This would be wrong. So let's not put this on our website. I mean, that's not illegal to make a decision to say.
You can have discussions with your board.
Right. I mean, so that's what they wanted to see if they could bring criminal charges. You realize that. Just like they did with Mike Flynn, they were trying to find a way, as we found out.
Yeah, we found the emails.
Because we got the FBI. The FBI got involved. How could they bring criminal charges at least against one of these groups so that they'd all back off and that President Obama wouldn't have to deal with them?
Because their idea was if we could get one, Just one case. You get one case that goes criminal that's going to stop all these groups from having any kind of influence or scare them, which was politically motivated. Jordan said in the order we got, the settlement, they said they acknowledge viewpoint discrimination. That is one of the worst forms of discrimination. But like asking for donor list violates the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. Who your relatives spoke with on political campaigns violates freedom of association. What elected officials met violates your members met with violates freedom of association. What petitions you initiated violated the right to petition your government for a redress of a grievance. But it came to a point where we had to get involved.
And, you know, it's interesting as well that when you look at the timeline, so 2012, you know, we start getting contacted because of what the IRS did. You know, we went public with this. Those giant rallies on Capitol Hill we'd be speaking at with senators and members of Congress and grassroots leaders. Thousands of people would show up on the grounds of the Capitol, right in front of the U.S. Capitol. It was being covered by all the news outlets. Guess what happened in 2014? This backfired on the Obama administration significantly. Not only did Republicans retain control of the House of Representatives, they took back the Senate. So for President Obama's final 2 years in office, he had absolutely zero ability to pass any legislation. But I think it is important. How do we get involved? So the groups get the letters, then the ACLJ gets involved.
Yeah, let's go ahead and play it.
For years, I had watched Fox News, and of course, Jay is a regular contributor and guest on Fox News. And I had always seeing the things that ACLJ represented and the fights that they fight for people that are unlawfully imprisoned in other countries and Christian groups, I had always admired him so much. So Toby had gone through all the work. Well, then one day she called me and I was at one of the hospitals I was working at. She's like, hey, can you jump on a conference call at such and such time? And I'm like, well, I'll be on the road at that time, but if I call in from the car, yeah, what is it? She's like, we're going to be talking to the ACLJ and they want, several of us on there to listen. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. So I left the place I was working at and headed on home, and I'm going down I-35, and I can remember exactly where I was at. And the conference call started, and Jay Sekulow comes on, coming out of the speakers in my car. And I was just like, oh my gosh, he's really talking to us.
I remember he was on the call, but he listened. He didn't even say anything for half an hour, okay? And these stories are coming through the phone lines from all these people, saying, oh yeah, they wanted to know what books we were reading, and we want a book report, or we wanted to know how many of your board members have ever run for political office, and we want their family name, the names of their family members, and if any of them have run for political office, and we want to know if they ever plan to run for political office. And you're going, whoa, 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 whoa. And Jay Sekulow broke in on the call. And he just said, I'm going to tell you right now, we will represent all of you, for this. This is completely wrong. This is something I've never seen this before. I've never heard of this before. And the ACLJ is going to stand up and fight for you in this case. And that was a huge relief, because until then, we weren't sure how we were going to fight back.
What we found out on that large conference call was that everybody was being asked the same thing from all these different offices. They were trying to shut groups down that they disagreed with. This was very, very serious.
All right, the movie is available for free, acljfilms.com. It's called Targeting Us, The People's Fight Against the IRS. It's also available at Amazon Prime. But also support the work of the ACLJ. ACLJ.org makes it all possible.
One of the practice areas that we've been able to develop is Freedom of Information Act requests, or FOIA requests.
It's thousands of pages of paper, and in those thousands of pages of paper, you usually find a nugget.
Government agencies acting out of control.
We have exposed that in our FOIA litigation, and we do that every day that we bring these cases.
It is your statutory right as an American citizen to have access to documents that reveal how the government is functioning, how your government is functioning.
We took it to the IRS. No one ever does that.
What the IRS was doing was violating the Constitution and statutory law. They can't do what they were doing before.
They've been hiding behind in the shadows. These FOIAs bring them to light.
How do we know? Because our FOIA litigation got that document.
Those of you that support the ACLJ, this is what it's all about at the end of the day.
It's all because of you, and you can doubly impact your donation today at aclj.org. Go online and donate now.
Live from Washington, D.C., Jay Sekulow Live. And now, your host, Jordan Sekulow.
All right, welcome back to Jay Sekulow Live. We are taking your phone calls at 1-800-684-3110. That's 1-800-684-3110. You know, we are, all these battles against the deep state, they're ongoing as we speak. We got John Durham's investigation, the U.S. attorney. We got the U.S. attorney in Texas doing, we now know it's at least been a 2-month investigation to whether there was criminal wrongdoing with the unmasking and then the leaking of classified information from that unmasking. And that Durham asked for that second U.S. attorney because it was just too much to do in one investigation. So we know that's ongoing. We know that in our FOIA work that the federal court has held that people like Samantha Power, Joe Biden, and others cannot hide behind and say that if it had my name, well, it was really just my assistant. The federal court said that for legal purposes, we assume it is you because if it was an assistant that was a high enough level aid to you to put your name into the system, then that is equal to you doing it. So that excuse of it wasn't really me doesn't work for you, Samantha Power, doesn't work for you, Susan Rice, doesn't work for you, Joe Biden, but it also wouldn't work for President Obama, whose chief of staff did it, because it works to both ways. So if your chief of staff did it, it would be like you were authorizing it as well. So we got that done. At the same time, it was announced just a day later that the unmasking criminal investigation was still ongoing, that it wasn't one of those open and shut investigations, because unmasking itself is not illegal. It was whether or not it was done improperly and was classified information leaked. That would be the illegal part. So we learned at the very same time that we got that ruling from the ACLJ civil in our FOIA work, we got that confirmation by Attorney General Barr that a separate U.S. attorney in Texas was criminally investigating the Obama administration's unmasking of Mike Flynn.
And this all caused us to set up within the American Center for Law and Justice our Government Accountability Project. I'm holding right here what is our first I shouldn't say first, it's a multiple report series, but this is our most recent. And this is just on the litigation that's taken place, Freedom of Information Act requests. This doesn't include the IRS cases, but we set up a whole project inside the ACLJ to do that. So when you support the work of the ACLJ, you're supporting this, you're supporting the litigation that took place in the IRS case, you're supporting the production of a full-length movie, documentary on the IRS case. That is something that I think everybody needs to see. You're supporting this radio broadcast every single day. So while we're in a matching challenge campaign at the ACLJ, I just want you to know what you're supporting and the issues you are. By the way, that movie's available for free. It's called Targeting Us, The People's Fight Against the IRS, acljfilms.com, or on Amazon Prime. Other movies are by the ACLJ as well, constantly working on that. So we'll get more into the IRS case in a moment. We'll be taking calls as well, 1-800-684-3110. It took federal litigation to correct the abuse within one of the most powerful and feared agencies in our government, the Internal Revenue Service.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, so again, I think that when you look at the fact that how feared the IRS was, I mean, it was one of those agencies that, like, you know, they were feared, and it wasn't a fear like no one liked the IRS to begin with, because, you know, paying taxes, no one really likes doing that. It's taken from your paycheck, whatever. So no one loved the IRS, but they get real scary when they come after you. It's very serious when the IRS comes after you. It's criminal, usually, when the IRS comes after you. And when they start doing bizarre actions, that leads you to believe that maybe there's criminal wrongdoing. So Congress started looking at it. So we get back, we had our clients, this is how ready we were, in public we were, go and testify before Congress. That means Democrats could ask questions too. So that's part of this documentary as well. And that's a big decision point as litigants to say, we're going to let our clients go testify before the United States Congress. And we did. And so we'll play some of that when we come back. ACLJfilms.com, Targeting Us, also on Amazon Prime. And go to ACLJ.org. Donate today.
It was unbelievably disturbing what the IRS had sent out in these questionnaires to these groups that they knew were being led by private individuals without a lot of experience in politics. They were small. They knew that from their initial applications. So they would do the initial 501c3 or 501c4 application. Then they received these, what I talk about, these unbelievably disturbing questions. They got these follow-ups. And we realized there was a pattern of these follow-ups, asking very invasive information, and that was unconstitutional to be inquiring about to the American people. Speakers lists, the actual speeches themselves, contents of prayers at meetings, backdoor access to their website. Not just what is your website, but we want a password to get into the back door of your website and be able to see what's going on internally as well. So not the normal questionnaire. They already filled that information out.
It was clearly coordinated, targeted, and they were trying to silence a voice. They were bullying people into giving up and walking away. And we responded back, and paraphrasing it, we said, "We will not comply."
And it was the most overwhelming moment of the process because I knew it was, or I thought, it was one person against the entire infrastructure of the U.S. government. However, it was within 24 hours of me getting that letter that the same letter began to appear on the internet from other organizations similar to mine all over the country saying we're being targeted.
So that led to a situation where some of the key people like Toby Walker from Waco, Eric Wilson from Kentucky, a couple other people start talking about this is more widespread than we think. Because when you get a letter like that, you kind of think it's just you. And that's what I think most Tea Parties thought at the time.
All right, welcome back to Jay Sekulow Live. This is Jordan Sekulow. So we took a unique approach here. So when this became more and more public, Congress wanted to start asking questions too, not just of IRS officials, but of these Tea Party group leaders. Now, this is a decision you have to make as attorneys. Do you put your clients before Congress and have them testify? Because they're going to get nasty questions from Democrats and who say you weren't really being targeted and try to play it all down, and you were trying to really run political organizations that shouldn't get this status, things like that. And we said, you know what? The American people need to know how disgusting and gross the IRS is acting here and how Obama's been trying to cover it up with Holder and his IRS commission. How many IRS commissioners did they go through that time? Three or four?
And remember, Holder initially said, if there's wrongdoing here and it's criminal wrongdoing, we're going to take action.
Yeah.
And then, of course, his action was no action because that's what he always does.
Right. Anyways, take a listen, though, and watch. And again, on Facebook and Periscope, keep sharing this with your friends and family because it's great visually today on the broadcast as we're giving you clips from the documentary. It's available at ACLJfilms.com or on Amazon Prime. You look for, search for Targeting Us, The People's Fight Against the IRS. It's free on both, ACLJfilms.com, or if you've got Amazon Prime, Targeting Us, The People's Fight Against the IRS. So here we go, taking our clients before Congress and having them testify.
I'm not here as a serf or a vassal. I'm not begging my lords for mercy. I'm a born-free American woman, wife, mother, and citizen, and I'm telling my government that you've forgotten your place. It's not your responsibility to look out for my well-being. I want to protect and preserve the America that I grew up in, the America that people cross oceans and risk their lives to become a part of. And I'm terrified it is slipping away.
You grow up expecting your government, the United States, your patriotic people. You don't expect this kind of intimidation, a banana republic. You don't expect it. You expect them to be professionals. And even if they don't like you or agree with you, to treat you with some respect. And there was none of that.
When I found out I was given the opportunity to testify, it was a privilege, and I was honored to be able to tell the story. For 2.5 years, the IRS has unlawfully delayed and obstructed my application for determination of tax-exempt status by using unconstitutional criteria. The types of questions asked by the IRS included asking me to identify the political affiliation of my mentors, and that I advise the IRS of my political position on virtually every issue of importance to me. For good measure, I was asked to identify those whom I train, and that I inform the federal government in detail what I am teaching my students. Considering that the mission of my organization is devoted to mentoring young people, some of whom are minors, can you imagine the reaction of the students' parents were I to turn over the names of their children to the IRS? And to what end? Is it not conceivable that I would be sued? Would the IRS threaten to audit the parents of those students? Yet my failure to comply with this stunning inquiry would result in the denial of my application or subject me to perjury.
I mean, you understand, I mean, these individuals testified before the United States Congress because their rights have been violated here. And fortunately, Congress was taking it all very seriously. But I have to say something about the clients here, and to all of them. You're hearing from a lot of them today. It takes a lot of willpower, a lot of guts to subject yourself to federal litigation, even if you're the plaintiff. And they did it. And they did it because they were concerned about the impact this was going to have on their country. They were concerned about their families. They were concerned about their nation. They were concerned about their communities. And the American Center for Law and Justice, because of your support for our work, is able to not only produce this great film, that again, called Targeting Us, The People's Fight Against the IRS, available at ACLJfilms.com or Amazon Prime, either way, but also bring you this broadcast, litigate the case, start a government accountability project. All of this takes place because of our support, the support you give us. So I want to encourage you to go to aclj.org and support the work of the ACLJ in our Matching Challenge campaign. But also, let's put it back on the screen again. You need to watch this movie in full. It's called Targeting Us, and it's by our ACLJ film team. It's streaming now on acljfilms.com and also on Amazon Prime, so we can get it to it. It's anybody in the world that has Amazon Prime can see this movie, see the work that our clients did, the work that we did, the work you're supporting. So continue to support the work of the ACLJ. You want to take that call?
Yeah, Jim's calling from Texas on line 3. Jim, welcome to Jay Sekulow Live. You were on the air.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, guys. Thank God for you that you're out there. We all knew this stuff was going on. My question is, what punitive actions can be taken against these departments, i.e. Eric Holder or Susan Rice? Yep. When are they going to answer for what they do instead of just giving us an oops, I'm sorry?
Well, here they didn't give us an oops, I'm sorry. We got an injunction, a declaratory action that also made them change all their policies. In a companion case that was filed in Ohio that we were involved in as well, our clients received monetary damages. Lois Lerner no longer works at the Internal Revenue Service. They changed a number of other officials. They changed the IRS commissioner. So people were held accountable. And that is, but look, I always say this, litigation takes time. If Andy was here, that's what he would say. It takes time to do this.
And remember who the DOJ was at the time. They weren't going after their own people. It was Holder. Now, we have a different DOJ now that got criminal investigation. We can't do criminal investigation at ACLJ.
Right.
But Bill Barr, Attorney Joe Barr can start them, and he has, against the deep state actors. So the administration, which administration is in charge, really comes into play. You know, we can do so much in the civil courts, and you can have great victories there. But for criminal, when you ask for criminal, we get that all the time. Criminal takes it. It's who's in charge of the Department of Justice, and that's it. That's an election issue, and it's going to be an election issue again very soon. And that's who can hold those people accountable in a criminal way. But we didn't just take our clients and say, let's go before Congress. We went to federal court, folks. Went to federal court. I mean, this was all the way. If you could put together a full strategy, there's like a full campaign legally. Media, congressional testimony, clients across the country taking on one of the most feared federal agencies, figuring out that the FBI was trying to criminally come after our clients, and then saying, you know what? No more negotiating. We're taking you to court, IRS. And by the way, the government hates when you take them to court. has so many excuses not to be in court with him, but take a listen.
I can't imagine a harder entity to come against than the IRS. Let me tell you, the IRS is a formidable foe.
Oftentimes, this is one of the most feared government institutions in the U.S. They get your taxes, they determine how much you owe, if you owe back taxes, they can seize your wage. I mean, all these things the IRS can do, a lot of power. They know everything about you, basically. So to sue them voluntarily took a very brave group of individuals and organizations that decided, okay, let's do this, ACLJ. We want to fight back for our rights. We want to fight for our recognition and fight for what we deserve from the IRS. Let's take them to court.
There was a serious systematic problem within the IRS that allowed this issue to percolate all the way to the top. And was Lois Lerner was the head of the tax-exempt organization. You had Maine Treasury. There were concerns that it reached into the White House. And the President Obama dismissed this as inconsequential. But ultimately, the way to handle this was court. You had to be in court to get this resolved.
The reason we got into it is because the original reason the Kentucky 912 Project was formed for principle. We felt that our rights were being violated, that we had a constitutional right that wasn't allowed to go forward, and that thanks to the ACLJ, we had a voice now that could fight back, shine a light on what was happening. So even if we didn't get what we deserved, that in the future, other organizations may be empowered to stand up and have that voice.
You can't just say, we're not going to sue. You can't say we're going to just let them trample on our rights. It was time to stand up. And I was proud of the other leaders who did the same.
Just give it a couple of months.
All right, we're on. All right, so look, the reality is, I think that when you're looking at this movie, and I think this is right, this gives you a sense of kind of the overviews of the kind of things where we did an actual case that involved not just litigation, but involved congressional testimony, litigation in federal court, a movie, being able to talk about it on TV.
I mean, we put these clients, not just on our own media, but right on Fox News, and not always with us. I mean, so oftentimes, if you're attorneys, you go on with your clients, and sometimes you need to do that. In this matter, we had 41 clients, all with different matters, and those who had already testified before Congress. I mean, some of them were appearing on Fox News more than us, at the time, and that was great. But those are all strategies. It wasn't like that just randomly happened. We put all of that together, made all of those decisions. Who to put forward, when to put forward, who should be talking, what issues should be bringing up, and then, of course, figuring out that the FBI was trying to criminally come after these groups, not just try to keep these groups from being active, but actually take them down criminally. How disturbing is that? Well, you'll find out in Targeting Us, the People's Fight Against the IRS, available for free at acljfilms.com. It's streaming there online and on Amazon Prime. It's free if you're a Prime member. Targeting Us. Check it out.
The IRS has finally released a list of political groups it has scrutinized.
I received this letter with a bunch of questions
that we all knew immediately was not right.
And at that point, I knew I was a target.
Tea Party groups say they're being targeted by the Internal Revenue Service, and they're enlisting the aid of the American Center for Law and Justice.
They were trying to shut groups down that they disagreed with.
I'll never forget what Jay said when he said, "We've got your back and we're going to be taking care of this." And I felt like the weight of the world was off of my shoulders.
Ms. Lerner, why would you say Tea Party cases were very dangerous?
The IRS started targeting Tea Party groups more than 3 years ago.
Never before has the federal government tried to muzzle everyday Americans solely because of their political view.
You don't expect this kind of intimidation.
There were some boneheaded decisions out of a
but no
local
mass
office.
corruption.
Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Lois Lerner admitted that agency employees singled out particular groups for extra scrutiny.
They used names like Tea Party or Patriots, and they selected cases simply because the application had those names in the title.
It was something that no one could believe our government was even capable of doing.
They have way too much power and no accountability.
Lois Lerner knew what was coming.
They got caught. The federal government got caught.
It is worth any battle to preserve our liberty.
We were fighting the United States of America at this point.
They knew they were breaking the law. They knew they were violating our rights.
We accidentally stumbled into the corruption that is the largest scandal in American history.
Thanks to your support, Targeting Us is now available on Amazon.
Welcome back to Jay Sekulow Live. This is Jordan Sekulow. So we've kind of taken you through. Now you're going to find out a lot more when you actually watch the ACLJ film, the documentary Targeting Us, The People's Fight Against the IRS. And when I say you can go get the film at acljfilms.com for free, it's streaming there. So I mean, it's available. If you could do that on your TV now. You could go to acljfilms.com on your own smart TV, or you can go if you're an Amazon Prime member and a tablet, or on your TV as well, or your computer if you want to. And you're an Amazon Prime member, you just search for Targeting Us, The People's Fight Against the IRS, and it's free for Amazon Prime members. But as we're walking you through this, and again, I encourage you, Facebook, Periscope, keep sharing. This is a great broadcast to share because visually, I think it's different than our normal radio broadcast, which again is TV quality, but we're showing you a lot of what we do on our real production side when it comes to our film side. So we've taken you through kind of how this began, the opening, getting the letters from the IRS, having the testimony, how we got involved, how the lawsuit began. But now we want to bring you to kind of when we finally, 5 years into this, got the decision from the court. And this is a cool clip because it's one of our clients going through the decision for you. Take a listen or watch.
The government has admitted and has entered into this decree, and they've agreed that it's wrong to apply U.S. laws against any individual based upon their name, the positions that they hold, provided they're lawful positions, which ours, of course, were, the issues that we espouse, or our associations or even perceived associations. That's the first point. The second point is that the government has agreed that their actions, whatever they take in this process, must be even-handed and never based upon the applicant's name, their political viewpoint or associations or perceived associations. And then the government finally declared or agreed that discrimination on the basis of our viewpoints, right? That the government, in administering the tax code, it's a fundamental violation of our First Amendment rights, which we knew all along, but the government was denying, to treat us differently in getting tax-exempt status or any treatment under the tax code based solely upon our point of view. So to have these now agreed and admitted by the U.S. government will provide precedent, which I hope in the future will at least hold at bay when someone is tempted to do this again.
They admitted that they lied, cheat, broke the law, and I guess that's the first time, in my understanding, that they've ever admitted in a court proceeding that they actually did something wrong.
We had things put in place so they wouldn't do it again to somebody else, which is even more important. And the most important, that then becomes a precedent for that next group that comes 5, 10 years from now. My 9-year-old, when she grows up, she can say, hey, my dad did it. I can do it too. And she has a voice. And that's really why we did this. It wasn't for me, it was for her.
I want to take a couple minutes here and talk about this because, folks, this is really important. We get so busy and we've had so much activity since these cases that you forget. And that's why it's so important to do these documentaries, because you want the history of what took place. And this, again, we couldn't do this without you. So first, thank you to all of you for allowing us to do this, because without your support, we don't get to do this. It's that simple. That's number one. Number two, look at the result. Now, this was congressional testimony, which was extensive, where our clients testified before members of Congress. We then had litigation, which was not done overnight. It was a lot of hearings, a lot of briefs, a lot of motions, appeals, back and forth. We were successful. Then it was settlement discussions. You just saw in that clip that we just played from the movie the nature and scope of those settlement discussions, which were really fantastic. And we got an unbelievable result for our clients, which is an unbelievable result for the country. And none of that happens. None of this takes place without your support of the ACLJ. And what I love about this particular documentary, it shows the full gamut of what we do at the American Center for Law and Justice. It shows everything. It shows litigation. It shows negotiation. It shows congressional hearings. It shows resolution. It has a documentary that explains the entire case. And when we have a daily radio and television broadcast that comes to you from these studios each and every day, it's because of your support. So there are a couple things I'd like you to do. First, this weekend or tonight, watch ACLJfilms.com. The movie is called Targeting Us, the People's Fight Against the IRS. This started in 2010, 10 years ago, a decade ago. But we got a great result. But you have to have incredible perseverance for all of this. And you have to have incredible resources. And because of God's graciousness and your support of the ACLJ, we have it. So Targeting Us, the People's Fight Against the IRS, is available at ACLJfilms.com. You can stream it there. It is streaming now. Or on Amazon Prime, which means the entire world can see it. And we have an entire staff of producers and video experts and sound engineers and music design that puts all this together. And your support of our work at the ACLJ makes it all happen. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is go see ACLJfilms.com and see what else is on there besides Targeting Us. But I really like you to see the IRS one because I think it's important to understand. Then second, and this is important, support the work of the ACLJ. And I know Jordan's going to want to address this in a moment, but I want to just take a minute here. First of all, I'm only asking you to support the ACLJ if you have the economic means to do that. We would never do any kind of pressure. And I know for some, it's been very tough. We got a little bit of good news today. 1.8 million jobs came back. Those are good. We could do that for 10 weeks in a row. That'd be great. But if you're able to support the work of the ACLJ, as I do and Jordan does, support the work of the ACLJ. We're in a matching challenge campaign. And that allows us to do everything I mentioned. Go to court around the globe, handle things at the United Nations, get pastors and Christians out of prison in foreign countries, litigate here and home, helping how many people now, Jordan? How many students?
Over 1,500 families have contacted us. I'd say out of those 1,500, 1,300 have already been assigned to attorneys. Additional couple hundred we just need more information from. And then you're sorting through those who are actually willing to take that next step in action, just like with the IRS matter, because then it's confrontational.
Yes, but the good news is you've got
governors. Yep. We're dealing with school boards. We're dealing with superintendents. So we've taken
we're getting response.
Yeah, we're taking a lot of action. We haven't posted a lot of it yet because we're still in negotiations. And then we're looking at the ones that are going to be lawsuits, remember, because some of this is going to go on for the entire school year. Those we're preparing. You don't just rush into court. We're preparing. You have to go through all the steps. And so there will likely be legal action as well. What we wanted to do was try and take care of the immediate need ones as quickly as possible without having to go to court because there was not time to go to court. Now we start moving to the phase of the court, the ones that will require court action, working with governor's office, all of that. 1,500 families, absolutely no cost to them, are getting legal assistance. The same attorneys who represent the President of the United States. Because of your support of the ACLJ, donate today, be part of our matching challenge at ACLJ.org. Right after this, we're getting on the phone with the Commissioner of Education in New Hampshire.